The name of a device beginning with a lowercase I is generally assumed to be an Apple product. This concept was pioneered by Ken Segal, who worked for the advertising company handling Apple's accounts when the computer was being created. Segal said I stands for Internet. Steve Jobs wanted this system to be called the MacMan, but his decision to go with Ken Segal's idea led to it being named the iMac. The I became an iConic naming idea for Apple, and the iMac became an iConic computer system. Hey guys, it's Jacob with Mac Retrospective, and today we are going to be taking a first look at the Apple iMac G3, the first of the iMacs. The story of the iMac arguably began in 1996. Coolio, Tracy Chapman, and Alanis Morissette were topping the music charts. Twister and Mission Impossible had just been released in theaters. Friends, Roseanne, and Third Rock from the Sun were the top TV shows. Apple and IBM actually formed a partnership to create a set of standards that would allow operating systems from different software companies to run on the exact same hardware. It was called Common Hardware Reference Platform, or CHIRP. Both Apple and IBM utilized parts of the resulting technology in future systems. But IBM is the only company to actually produce a machine that followed all of the standards they came up with. The iMac was based partially on CHIRP and partially on the results of a meeting between 30 different hardware and software vendors that took place on May 30th, 1996. The meeting was to discuss the development of what then were known as thin clients. A thin client is a small, lightweight computer specifically optimized for establishing a remote connection to a server. Such thin clients offer several advantages over big, bulky, expensive desktop systems. The cost of a topology involving a single centralized server for storage is much less than the cost of storing data at every client location. Also, the complexity of synchronizing data stored in countless client locations creates its own set of problems, which a thin client architecture solves. The results of this big meeting in 1996 was a plan to build computers based on the Computer Network Platform. Optimism about the technology led Oracle CEO Larry Ellison to announce in December of the following year plans to release the Mac NC, which was a lightweight system containing a 300 MHz processor, 17-inch monitor, and all for less than $1,000. A hard drive was going to be a $100 add-in option. Steve Jobs returned to Apple before the Mac NC got off the ground, and he did not believe in the concept. He also took issue with some of the gaps in Apple's pricing structure at the time. The Performa was Apple's only all-in-one option, and it was not fitting well with the new intended pricing structure. The result is that the technology developed for both the Mac NC project and CHIRP ended up in a new product called, you guessed it, the iMac. The iMac was released in August 1998. It was a compact, all-in-one system with a 15-inch CRT monitor, a 5400 RPM ATA hard drive, 10x100 networking, and the option to add an Apple Airport Wi-Fi adapter. The enclosure was surrounded by clear plastic and came in any of 13 different colors. Initially, Apple was criticized for many of the iMac's departures from industry standards, but the iMac proved to be a trendsetter in several important ways. The iMac was the first personal computer to be completely legacy-free. It was also the first Mac to include USB ports. This was done to permit Apple customers to use third-party hardware designed for x86-based systems, and it proved to be a successful strategy. The first version was simply known as the iMac. But after the release of other iMac systems, it became known as the iMac G3. It weighed 40 pounds, mostly because of the CRT, but it proved to be popular for its other innovative features. It had a 233 MHz G3 processor when it was released, but by the last revision, the clock speed had been increased to 750 MHz. It came with between 32 megabytes and 1 gigabyte of SD RAM. and up to a 128GB 5400 RPM ATA hard drive. It had a 24-speed CD-ROM drive to begin with. Eventually, it included a 4x speed DVD-ROM drive. The iMac G3 included ATI graphics with up to 16 megabytes of VRAM to go with the 15-inch shadow masking CRT monitor. Some of that 40 pounds was because of the internal Harman Kardon Odyssey speakers. External connectors include two USB 1.1 ports, two FireWire ports, two headphone mini jacks, one audio mini jack input, one 10x100 Ethernet port, and an RJ11 port for the V9056K modem. Our system is a 266 MHz Blueberry tray loading model with a 6GB hard drive, 32 megabytes of RAM, and an ATI Rage Pro GPU. We found it on eBay for $100, and that included a mouse and keyboard. The system looks like it's in pretty good shape. The outer plastic shell is tough and shows little sign of wear. Rapid changes in the computer industry made individual models relatively short-lived, but the iMac G3 was sold all the way until March of 2003, despite its use of a CRT monitor. When the completely redesigned iMac G4 was released, Apple continued to produce CRT systems for educational use, because educational institutions are particularly focused on overall cost. Because of this, the basic configuration of the iMac G3 lasted for nearly 8 years. Now that we've taken a look at the Apple iMac G3, let's see if it'll power on. Okay, now it's time to see if our G3 works. I am a little concerned. There's a lot that can go wrong with a computer like this, because it's a late 90s computer and you had a big influx of bad capacitors around that time. Plus it's a CRT, and those don't tend to be all that reliable. But it is an iMac, and those usually turn out to be tanks, so fingers crossed. Oh, that sound just like hit a wave of nostalgia. That was great. I hear the cathode sparking. So, ooh. I hear it whirling up. Ooh. Mac OS. Wow. Well, that takes a long time to load. Ooh. Uh-oh. I don't know if that's going to catch on camera, but I'm hearing sparks, and every time it sparks, the CRT turns off for half a second. Wow, it booted up. That's awesome. I am a little concerned about that CRT, though that, oh, it did it again. But it works. Awesome. That's great. Well, if you guys like this first look / first boot video, please make sure to comment down below what other Mac products you'd like to see us cover. And of course, check out some of our other videos. And I'll see you next time.